I'm Dr. Debra So, and this is Wrong Speak, the podcast about the things we believe to be true but cannot say. You may have heard about what happened to Marie-Claire Bissonnette. While demonstrating at a pro-life event in Toronto, she was physically assaulted by a man who said he was pro-choice. Before being roundhouse kicked in the shoulder by him, Marie-Claire had taken out her phone to film him as he scribbled on some of the other protesters' signs. The video she took soon went viral. Even if you are pro-choice, as I am, you can see why this kind of behavior is unacceptable. We should be able to have conversations with people with whom we disagree without resorting to physical violence. I had the chance to speak with Marie-Claire about what happened to her and what this says about the growing trend of using force and intimidation to silence speech. So to start, walk me through the course of events that happened that day.
Okay, well, I was put in charge of the corner for the Kiel and Bloor for Life Chain. So I was handing out signs and I was the one responsible. And Jordan Hunt, who was unknown to me at the time, began to scribble on some signs. And so I told the pro-lifers to shield their signs. And then he began scribbling on the backs of people, including a 10-year-old girl. And so I took out my phone and started recording him, at which point you can see what happens in the recording. And he kicked my shoulder. My phone went flying out of my hands. He said, "I meant to kick your phone." I started yelling for someone to call the cops, and I told him not to touch me. And then before he ran away, he grabbed the ribbon on my chest and pulled it off and threw it on the ground.
Why do you think that he, 1, attacked you, and 2, also chose to take the ribbon from you after?
A part of me believes him that he didn't want to be recorded, and so he tried to kick the phone out of my hands. And then the other part of me kind of sees that his aggression towards me is consistent with his philosophy that we don't have, or that pro-lifers shouldn't be given freedom of speech. And I've seen this and I've witnessed this aggression before. And so it's not just about recording someone, it's about they don't want us to speak about this subject. And so I think that he displayed that aggression, and unfortunate for him that he was caught on camera. About the ribbon, I think that perhaps he was sorry that he assaulted me and that he missed my hand and got my shoulder. But I don't think that negated his aggression towards me. I don't think that he was sorry for trying to take away my freedom of speech. I guess he just wanted to make his pro-choice view. He wanted to express it one last time before he ran away.
My understanding is that it was a peaceful protest, but this is not the first time you've encountered harassment and assault. Why do you think some people default to violence when they disagree, especially in a situation like this?
Well, our message is pretty controversial. I mean, we are saying that all life should be protected, and that human beings shouldn't be killed even inside the womb before birth. And for someone who is pro-choice, or for someone who may have gone through an abortion, that is a very difficult message to receive. And also, there's kind of, I think the leftist ideology is kind of expressing that it's okay to be violent towards people who don't share the same opinion with you. We're seeing this more and more with campus protests about when they bring in free speech speakers like Jordan Peterson, McMaster, got pretty violent. I don't think that he wanted a civil debate. He obviously didn't care about my answer. He prepared to attack me while I was giving my answer about the rape question. So he doesn't actually want to interact with me on an intellectual level.
What would be a more appropriate response for people who are pro-choice or who disagree with you? How should they go about making their opinion known?
Well, I think a civil discussion is always the best way to go. I do believe there's an objective truth, and so to find a truth, we need to bring both sides of the argument to the table. And if people can express their side freely and without a threat of physical violence, that's the quickest way we're going to find out the solution, and we're going to find the truth. And so if there are pro-choice people that walk by, I'd say, yeah, stop and talk to us, obviously in a civil manner, and we'll work towards the truth together.
After footage of the event went viral, Jordan Hunt, the man who assaulted you, was fired from the salon where he worked. What are your thoughts regarding his employer's response?
I thought it was probably a wise decision on her part. If she had kept him on, it would probably taint the reputation of her business, and she shouldn't have to pay for something her employer did or employee did, especially off of work hours. I think that the response to her response, she received a lot of hate mail and a lot of aggression from both sides. I think that is quite unfortunate because she's not the one who kicked me. And I think she responded in a very professional way that is commendable.
What has been the public's response to what happened to you?
Individually, I've gotten hundreds of messages from random people, a lot of them very much supportive, very apologetic that I went through this. Some of it was hate mail. Some people, they completely ignore the fact that I was the victim in this case, and they just say, go F you or whatever, like, you're anti-choice, how can you be anti-choice, and they go on. But for the most part, people have been very sympathetic, which I'm grateful for.
You filed a police report later that day. Where is the case now?
To my knowledge, he'd given himself in, and he's been charged for 9 cases of assault and 7 accounts of mischief. There's also been more video evidence of him assaulting a young woman in the summer to do with pro-life demonstrations as well. And I think that is included in the charges of assault. He's been bailed out. I don't know by whom, but he has pretty severe restrictions, one of which is not to go near me and not to be within 200 meters of a pro-life demonstration.
And how have you been doing?
I've been doing well. I was pretty emotionally shaken up by the whole thing. The week following. I'm definitely not scarred for life, which is good, and my shoulder is not hurting anymore. I'm lucky that he wasn't any bigger than he was, or else he would have done more damage. I've received a lot of support, and I'm thankful for that.
What can we do as a society to foster more productive dialogue, especially when some on the left do tend to default to silencing and shutting down people with whom they disagree? What can be done to improve this climate?
I think the media and the government play a large role in fostering the left's idea of their entitlement to shut people down. I think, for one, fair coverage by mainstream media is definitely one of the keys for doing this, because if people are just reading about how evil pro-lifers are, then obviously they're going to think we're evil. Also, the government is also fostering this shutting down of freedom of speech through the legislation. For example, the bubble zone law, which takes away charter rights of a certain demographic of people. They've also just been very hostile to pro-lifers in general with the summer jobs program defunding type thing. So I do think that the government and the media do have a responsibility to taper this kind of leftist ideology that has really gone overboard. Also, I think that people should take the personal responsibility of doing all their homework and having more of an open mind that they claim to promote. They actually should embrace the acceptance and diversity that they're promoting, not just with physical features or sexuality, but also with ideas.
Your story was covered by some left-leaning outlets, including The Independent and Huffington Post. Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me. I didn't think that it would cover, but I think that the video became viral before they covered it, and they saw this as an opportunity to get more readers, perhaps, and the way the video is filmed, luckily, there's not a lot of wiggle room for them to paint me in a negative light. But it did surprise me. I didn't expect to get their coverage.
Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
I'd just like to stress the importance of freedom of speech, because it's in societies where freedom of speech is attacked that we really get the big tragedies of our history. Marxism, Nazism, just different, especially within the 20th century. There seems to be this mob mentality, and people are tapping out of the responsibility for thinking for themselves. But if we're all able to respectfully, peacefully, non-violently express our ideas, this is the quickest way to get to the truth, and it's going to be the best for everyone.